Italian coast guards have given up hope of finding nearly 30 migrants thrown into the sea over the weekend when their flimsy dinghies overturned after setting sail from Tunisia. This latest Mediterranean tragedy happened as human rights organizations called on Tunisia's president to save hundreds of African migrants trapped on the border with Libya without shelter from the scorching heat and sun. The crisis has accelerated criticism of the European Union, which recently signed a deal with Tunisia to crack down on illegal migration. Special correspondent Malcolm Brabant reports.
Risk death in the desert or drown at sea. Those are the terrible choices facing sub-Saharan Africans trying to reach Europe via Tunisia. 27 migrants are missing, feared dead, after their rubber dinghies capsized in rough seas south of the Italian island of Lampedusa this weekend. The Italian Coast Guard rescued 57 people and recovered the bodies of a young boy and a woman who succumbed to the waves before deliveries arrived. And this is the fate they were trying to avoid, being abandoned in the Sahara Desert, one of the most unforgiving places on earth. Other sub-Saharan Africans with the same European dream have been dying of thirst after being dumped by the Tunisian authorities on the Libyan border. This mother and her small child are among the latest victims, lying next to an empty water bottle and not far from a man who also succumbed to extreme heat and dehydration.
Over 300 people are still currently trapped at the Tunisia-Libya border in the desert, and they've been trapped there for weeks.
Human Rights Watch researcher Lauren Siebert is an expert on the dangers facing migrants in Africa.
You have children, you have women, you have deaths that are increasing. You do have Libya border guards that are reporting deaths every few days.
Fatima Ibrahim from Nigeria is terrified as Libyan border guards approach. "We won't hit you," says this officer as he tells a colleague to give her water. "We won't hit you. Don't be afraid." As the Libyans dispense the smallest of mouthfuls, Fatima Ibrahim explains why they're in peril.
In Tunisia, the police arrested us, beat us, and took our phones and all our money. They told us to go to Libya, and my people kept saying Libya is very bad. They left us without water and food. They put us there and then left.
Tunisia's authoritarian president, Kais Saied, is being blamed for what is turning into a 21st century pogrom. Accompanied by a jaunty soundtrack on his Facebook page, Saied presents himself as an international statesman, greeting leaders such as Italy's right-wing Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. But many critics condemn him as a dictator who propagates racism. In February, Saied told security forces to stop all illegal migration and expel those without documents.
We are African and we are proud to be Africans. We give help to those who come to us, but we refuse to be neither a pathway nor a land to settle in.
A campaign of arrests and expulsions created a wave of fear among sub-Saharan Africans and black Tunisians. Pro-refugee activists took to the streets of the capital, Tunis, to protest the new measures, but Saied was unrepentant.
We are being subjected to vicious campaigns from mercenaries, traitors, foreign agents, and shady parties. Today they want to change the demographic composition of Tunisia. It's a plot and they get paid for it. And they got paid in other fields to attack the state and the Tunisian people and their identity.
Saied's remarks have been widely condemned for provoking racial violence between Tunisians and migrants. The death of a Tunisian in July was one of the catalysts that led to the expulsions to the desert. Despite the clashes, European Union leaders had no qualms about visiting the presidential palace to do business with a man who seized power 2 years ago, crushing democratic aspirations of the nation where the Arab Spring began in 2011. The European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, pledged $100 million to help Tunisia police its own borders, with the lure of a further $1 billion in aid.
We need to crack down on criminal networks of smugglers and traffickers. They are exploiting human despair, and we have to break their reckless business model. So we will work with Tunisia on an anti-smuggling operational partnership.
The EU country which benefits most from this deal is Italy. The island of Lampedusa is just over 100 miles from Tunisia and has been a landing zone for tens of thousands of asylum seekers for years. Italy's Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, took office last autumn on an anti-migration platform.
The partnership with Tunisia has to be considered as a model for building new relations with North African neighbours. All these, a few months ago, would have been unthinkable. And I want to say it with a level of pride, but also with a level of gratitude to the European Union.
The rhetoric around this deal is a rhetoric of preventing people drowning, whereas everyone knows that the reality is about preventing people coming to Europe. That's the political priority in Europe.
Anand Menon is Professor of European Politics at King's College London.
Europe has cash, and North African states have space to build these camps to house these migrants. We should remember that, of course, the European Union paid Colonel Gaddafi way back in the sort of 2009, 2010 to do exactly the same thing, to make sure migrants didn't make the crossing. So politically, you see the rationale, but it makes the European Union complicit in human rights abuses in these camps.
What does this say about Europe?
I mean, what it says about Europe is that European politicians are terrified by migration from Africa and will do anything it takes to stop it, even if it means dealing with dictators such as in Tunisia.
Black Lives Matter.
These people were rescued from the desert by Libyan authorities. Their protest took place during a media facility with a border guard unit.
Some people are sick. We ask them for solution, no solution. Every day they come with weapons for us. We are not fighting. We are just a migrant.
Tunisia's actions are a welcome distraction for its neighbour, Libya, another country on the migrant trail with a dreadful reputation.
Our legal advisors who work with survivors of torture every day describe Libya as Armageddon. They describe it as complete hell on earth.
Natasha Tsangaridis is the Associate Director of Advocacy with Freedom from Torture, a British non-profit.
People experience such high levels of trauma and PTSD following their time in Libya, being subjected to open-air slave markets, being sold off at auctions, being subject to rape and torture.
But for human rights activists, discussions about the morality and cynicism of the European Union and its North African partners are taking second place to the issue of life and death in the Sahara. How do you see this ending?
Honestly, if the Tunisian government does not take action to save these individuals' lives by allowing humanitarian aid immediately to access the zone, and if it does not also facilitate the evacuation of these people, you're going to see extreme numbers of deaths. And you've got children there, more children could die. It's just really catastrophic.
Tunisia has dismissed international characterization of the expulsions as false allegations. But it's impossible to deny that time is running out in the desert and in the cruel Mediterranean Sea. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Malcolm Brabant.